All right, guys, welcome back to the Bayside Fabrication YouTube channel. So we are getting the car prepped for Dyno Day, which should be tomorrow. Luke is hooking up the boost controller, and what I'm doing now is I'm just going to pull off the engine lid just because our engine bay temperatures are out of control. So I'm going to pull off the deck lid here and the rear bumper, and we're just going to go naked on the rear until we get a cooling solution for the engine bay here. So in the meantime, like I said, we're going to get the boost controller hooked up. We're going to test the VTEC solenoid, make sure that's working, and our also our cam phasing and all that stuff. So we're just going to run a few tests today before we go to the dyno to make sure all of our ducks are in a row before we do that. So thanks for watching. Check it out. Signal rating. I wasn't sure. Just come straight back. All right, guys. So we're at the point now where, what was it? The joys of 4-port boost controllers, yep. Luke?
Yep.
All right, so this is the biggest pile of crap on the planet. These Mac 4-ports come with these tiny little connectors. And it's funny because I had the boost controller, one of the pins fell out, and Luke just started laughing at me. Because he's like, oh, what is it, a 4-port Mac? He's like, yeah, well, we're in for fun. And that's what we're in for. So essentially, this connector does not connect the wires into the valve. It's so loose and so flimsy that you have to like manipulate the wires manually to make contact. So we're at the point now where we just pulled the connector off, and we're gonna crimp these and just to get this running for tomorrow. But I don't even know what to say about this. It's absolutely absurd. We essentially just had to pull the plug completely, crimp some pins from the Haltech, and pressure fit them in there in a hack way. Because the fittings just suck that bad. This is the most, how long have we been messing with this? 2 hours? Hour?
It's too long.
Hour and a half? We've been trying to get this, and the Mac valve's fine. It's just the connector. The stock connector on these things is just a pile of garbage. So what I think I'm gonna do is, now that we got it working, I'll probably take those pins and I'll pull the Mac valve off on a rainy day and epoxy them into the, into where the current location is and just leave it. And that's just gonna be that. But this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Okay, well, we're about to go for our test drive. Car's in naked mode, and right now we're accomplishing making sure our boost controller works, making sure our VTEC works, and making sure our cam phasing is all in order. So that's what we're doing now, and we'll see how it goes. So guys, we're on the side of the road right now. The car just shut off, and now it won't turn over. It didn't make any crazy noises or anything, but it's like, feels like it's locked up. And everything was just fine, so we don't know what's happening right now. I mean, oil pressure was fine. I mean, everything looked good. Yeah, I don't either. We're just going, and I just did like I didn't even do a pull or anything. And I went to go turn into the street. I lost all my power steering. The car shut off, and now it won't turn it back on. No rattles, no bangs, no nothing. I'm just gonna push us into the shade somewhere.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'll get out and help you.
No, we're good. We're not far from our house. What I'll do is I'll just have Danielle come and just gotta set this up real quick. Yep.
All right, try bumping it real quick. Like try this is fucking ridiculous, man.
Yeah, this is crazy.
And the engine just shut off?
Just shut off.
Yeah, like cam control, like I had, it was calibrated, and then like here's my target table. It was asking for 10. It gave me 0. All right, let's try to crank it again. It does kind of sound like it's hydrolocked, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, dude, that's freaking strange.
Yeah, dude, I only gave it 10 degrees of ignition or cam angle as well.
I mean, it would have started making some kind of racket, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't just lock up, but like it sounded like it felt like a hydrolocked or something. But
I'm not seeing where it would have done that. Like,
you know, if it was like a lubrication issue, we would have heard like you know, something, you know, like a bottom end thing.
Yeah.
And we weren't boost, we weren't doing anything.
Nothing. The only thing that is worrying me is like I couldn't, like on the cam control on the intake angle, it wouldn't read anything. There was 0, like it wasn't giving me anything. And I have quite a bit of proportional in here. The PIDs are pretty stout, man. And it was targeting 10 and it would give me nothing.
So it's a 50-degree cam gear. If that was all the way maxed out, it still wouldn't do anything, right?
No, I don't think so, because it's stock cams.
Yeah.
I've seen 50 on stock before.
All right, guys, current situation. At least we're close to our house, so we're only a couple blocks away. So e-brake works and everything.
What's up?
I'm just gonna take it super easy. E-brake works, but, well guys, this is unfortunate. But the good thing is, we're close to the house. Nothing went kaboom and caught on fire, so exciting stuff, guys. So yeah, I have no clue what happened. Everything was fine. It didn't make any crazy noises or anything. Maybe there was something weird in the VTEC and cam control that I don't know. I really don't know. So we'll get back to the house and get this sorted out. All right, so we're back at the shop, and what we're gonna do now is just pull our engine access here off and check the plug, see if there's any valve contact. I mean, I checked it and it wasn't leaking. It had a small leak of oil, but I mean, it could be an oil issue. It could be a 300,000 mile motor from the junkyard that I paid $400 for, and that was just, it's time to go. But it didn't give us any signs that anything was going wrong, and it was running great. So we'll get it figured out. Here's what the plugs look like. They're all mint. Nothing smashed into them, no contact, everything looks good, right? Those are all pretty good.
Yeah, they all look pretty good, man.
We just scoped the bores, and there's nothing obvious. The motor is locked in both directions. So now I'm gonna pull the oil filter, see if there's anything in the oil filter, and then we can pull the pan and see if there's any material in the pan, but it made 0 noise. I literally had the clutch in, the car just, the only reason I knew the car shut off is I lost power steering immediately. I just thought the res went down because we were turning, and then it wouldn't start back up, so we'll see. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna need the filter cutter, I think, still, but looks pretty metallic to me, man.
Yeah, there's metal all in there.
Yeah.
Bearing? Like
I think we had an oil pressure issue, man.
Well, either way, the motor's coming out.
Yeah, that sucks though, man.
Well, it's not inexpensive. It's not my built motor.
That's good, thank God. But nonetheless.
Well, that wasn't what I was expecting for today.
Yeah, likewise.
Like, at all.
Yeah, likewise.
All right, guys, I'm just pulling the pan right now. And we're gonna see if there's anything obvious going on down here. Oh, we got metal in here.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
How much?
All right, guys, check this out. Giant pieces of metal in here. Dude, there's huge shavings.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. What color are those shavings?
Copper?
Are you sure that's not just the oil?
No. Yeah, they're definitely copper.
It probably ate all the bearings.
Let's check it. Well, how the hell did that happen?
I don't know. But this is honestly the best part. This is like the learning portion of this. So if you're gonna take anything away from a bad experience, this would be it, like the learning experience.
Well, and this is exactly why I didn't put in a $2,500 bottom end.
Yeah.
Plus a fully built head and all that stuff. Because if this would have happened to a $5,000 motor, I would have been pissed.
I agree.
This is a $400 motor I got at a junkyard with probably 300,000 miles on it. So it's, you know, that's exactly why I did this, because I wanted to get all the bugs out of cheap motors before we started getting crazy. I was hoping to go to the dyno and at least blow this up in a cool way. This sucks. I want to rod through the block, dude. Not some stupid metal shavings and a couple bum wires.
You know, I could never came over.
Why?
That way you just don't allocate anything, just show up the dyno day and I could have just thrown some boost at it.
Yeah.
Take the screwdriver up there between the counterweights and move it all the way to the front of the car.
It is.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
I'm gonna push my foot down. Let me know when it starts to move.
Right there.
That's at the very end. Like I have no pressure on the clutch.
So you just barely touched it?
Barely. My foot like did this, Ben. Like just, I moved probably about maybe 1/8 of an inch.
Okay. Okay guys, so Luke left for the day and I'm just going to focus on getting this motor out of the car, mainly because I need to be able to get the car in and out of the shop. Well, that's where I'm at, guys. I quite literally have like 2 or 3 hoses to disconnect coolant lines, and that's probably about it. But I'm calling it quits tonight because it's like midnight and I'm done. So I told myself if it's midnight, hell or high water, I'm calling it quits, and I'm okay with that. I've had a long enough day with this motor not cooperating. All right, well, motor's out, and it's just time to separate the transaxle from the motor and see what the heck is going on with this thing. Bright side of things is this gives me an opportunity to go through and redo a bunch of stuff that I want to do now that it's out. I did find, because it did have a small oil leak, we are pooled up with oil in here, and I don't know if that's coming out the head or if it's a leaky valve cover gasket, but this was pooled up and leaking out and over. So that's interesting. And also while we're in here, we did a good job at melting some of the sound deadening and all that stuff. So I'm gonna clean that up, get that squared away. Mount our coolant lines a little better because I didn't like how they were mounted. Pretty much just kind of go through and redo everything. Not redo everything, but you know, redo certain things. All right guys, a couple minutes later, we have the motor mostly stripped. And I got my little Harbor Freight cart here, which is pretty sick to have actually. So we're just keeping everything here, wiring harness, turbo, intake, blah, 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 blah. All right guys, I did find one thing that's a little interesting here. I don't know if it affected anything, but this plate here is loose that holds my my bearing for the input shaft on the transmission. So all these bolts here are loose, and this whole thing, there's not much play in it, but there's a little. So that's an interesting thing. I'm gonna pop this off. I also know there's a little heat here from the clutch. Not super concerning, but Luke had one idea that this clutch might have actually been way too tight. Now I had problems with this clutch before, like it almost felt like it needed to be shimmed when I put it on. So maybe the clutch was pushing way too hard against the crankshaft and essentially pushed it out of spec, which I find kind of hard to believe, but it's a possibility, I suppose. So yeah, I'm gonna pull this flywheel off and we'll just keep digging. Okay guys, got the engine here on the stand, and the first thing I'm gonna do here is pull this valve cover. So I don't see anything glaring other than a motor with a bunch of miles on it. All right guys, so other than the obvious metal in the pan that I showed you yesterday, there's nothing that I can see visibly wrong with this at this point. Oil pump's free and clear. All right. See that, guys? That's a spun bearing right there. We definitely have one spun rod bearing, so. That's where all the metal came from. So obviously the pistons and rods are disconnected from the crank so they can move, but they all look fine. So there's definitely no valve interference or anything like that, which we kind of initially thought, but you know, after kind of thinking about it, it almost it'd be impossible because we'd have to be in VTEC and the cam would have to be advanced all the way simultaneously. So we'd have to be like over 6,000 RPM and the cam would have to be advanced. I mean, this happened at, you know, 1,000 RPM. So even if the cam advanced all the way, there'd be no possible way for that to happen. So this kind of had a few things going on with it. One, we found out that the Haltech, I bought the harness from a guy who had a car running previously, but the output signal from the intake cam sensor wasn't hooked up to anything. So Luke was looking and saying, you know, he was asking it to give 10 degrees and he couldn't get a response back from the sensor saying what it was doing, essentially, from my understanding at least. So that was weird. And we discovered that with this because we thought, oh geez, maybe we commanded 10 degrees and the cam just advanced all the way because it had no reference, you know, to what was going on, and we smashed a piston into the head. That's what we kind of thought originally. Because that's what we were playing with that day. We were playing with the VTEC and the cam advance, but you know, we'd have to have certain RPM, certain aspects and things like that. And it just didn't make sense now, you know, once you start thinking about it. And so we just pulled the pistons out and I'm just trying to come up with an explanation as to what happened. And if you guys have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments and let me know what you guys think. So first thing you can notice here, this is cylinders 1, 2, 3, and 4. Obviously 3 and 4 are much cleaner than 1 and 2. I also noticed, let me grab my flashlight here. I also noticed in between the cylinders here on 3 and 4 are here, compared to here, looks quite different. Now looking into the bores, they are pretty rough. 3 and 4 in particular. It's hard to see, but you can actually feel this discolorization there. You can feel that. So I'm almost wondering, and yeah, I mean, these things are, these bores are pretty toast. I mean, I'm almost wondering, well, A, I can't imagine this motor has anything less than 200,000 miles on it for sure. But I'm almost wondering if this thing overheated at one point in time. Also keep in mind, when I was putting it together, our cam gear had that dowel that goes into the crank. The dowel was sheared off. So that was an issue I found. But you know, the motor turned over, everything was good. And yeah, there was that. But you know, as far as everything else is concerned, I'm not sure really what happened. Maybe it was previously overheated, things were out of round. Maybe it had a half spun bearing to begin with. How we wouldn't hear it or notice it because the car ran so good is interesting. Luke had a theory too that maybe the oil was cavitating. So, I mean, my baffle here, I can't imagine how that could happen. You see all the metal in here? But I can't imagine how that could really happen. Just the way this is designed, it funnels all the oil. I mean, there's a V in here, and all the oil gets funneled down into the pickup. And if anything, it just can't come out. It can go down. But not going to rule that out, but I find that less likely because we had good oil pressure and we never noticed oil pressure changing. So, I mean, we're just kind of trying to rule out all these things. So at this point, yeah, that's all I can come up with. I mean, we got, you know, cylinders that don't look great. We got weird discolorization, and obviously the head matches 3 and 4. The head is much cleaner than 1 and 2. So maybe there was a small amount of coolant getting in there, but if we were getting water into the cylinders, then we'd have all sorts of other problems, and it would be misfiring. I would think we'd have smoke out the exhaust, white smoke, something, you know what I mean, along those lines. So. Not really sure what happened. I'm not gonna harp on it too much. I just think we got a bad motor from the junkyard. And that's, that was the gamble I made. And in hindsight, I should have just bought one with a warranty that, because it was only $400 more, you know. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm just gonna go pick up a JDM motor, swap off the accessories, and get this thing back going as soon as possible here. But yeah, I really can't pinpoint the exact moment. I mean, you know, oh, Luke had another theory. Maybe because there's so much crap and crud in that head, maybe some of the oil returns coming down were getting blocked off. So maybe it wasn't flowing enough oil back down to the pan, but you know, we still have really good oil pressure, so it almost doesn't make sense. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. If you have any, you know, any of you guys are building engines and you've seen something like this before, let me know. I'm just gonna chalk it up to a, you know, $400 junkyard motor, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And this one was probably just, I mean, it was at the junkyard for a reason, so that's for sure. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I appreciate you watching. We're gonna get this car back in action in no time. So all the hard stuff's done, all the fab work, all the time consuming stuff's done. It's literally a matter of just bolting all the accessories back onto the new motor, cleaning out as much as we can, and reusing what we can, and go from there. So we'll see you on the next one, guys. I appreciate you watching.